Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the webinar titled Redefining Accounts Payable Operations, presented by Newgen Software, a leading provider of a unified digital transformation platform with native process automation, content services, and communication management capabilities. I'm Gunjan Kalita, and I shall be your host and the moderator for this webinar. Let me quickly introduce our speakers today. First up, we have Rakesh Sangani, founder and CEO of Proservartner. Rakesh is joined by Sriram S., who heads the global F&A practice for Newgen. At the end of the presentation, we'll be open to any questions you might have. We request you to type your questions in the question window of your GoToWebinar anytime throughout the webinar. Our experts would get back to them at the very end. So, without further ado, I invite Rakesh to get us started.
Yeah, thank you very much, Gunjan, and hello to everyone that's joined us today. So we're going to talk about the P2P and accounts payable marketplace to begin with, and then really deep dive into the Newgen platform. And Newgen are an important partner for us at Proservartner because I think they're one of these companies that nobody's ever heard of. That has a decent, effective, low-cost AP platform. And I think in the marketplace, we hear everyone's heard of the likes of Coupa and Ariba and Basware and OpenText Vim. So we like to also bring in maybe some capability and functionality that you've maybe not come across before. So really excited about this session. Shreya, maybe we can move on to the next slide. So for those of you that don't know about Proservartner, I will spend no more than 30 seconds around us. We're a great company with a complex name. Proservartner actually stands for Professional Services Partners Limited. We're incorporated actually 15 years ago. My background is that of a chartered accountant at Arthur Andersen. I then worked at Deloitte and Accenture for a number of years up to senior exec, and realized that there was a better way of doing things than throwing graduates at problems. So we started Proservartner to be more experience-led, more pragmatic, more specialist consulting services. We've been going for about 15 years. We bring together the latest in technology together with the best process techniques, together with the right operating models. And that's really what we're about. So we're 100 people strong. We are doing lots of work globally around this space of finance, HR, procurement, transformation, enabled by technology. And today we'll focus a lot more on that P2P space. So I think we can move on. That's a little bit about the journey we've gone through. In terms of what we do, well, when it comes to those areas, we do everything from discovery, where we run a number of diagnostics to see how mature these functions are, specifically also going down to kind of accounts payable, order to cash, record to report levels of detail. We also help set the strategy, so that can be a finance target operating model, that can be the new GBS or shared services strategy. We then help design the processes. We then help implement that, and we provide the follow-up support and maintenance where needed. So ultimately, we offer a service that's end-to-end across the whole life cycle of a transformation. What we don't do, which some of maybe the bigger firms do, is we don't give you advice, run away after 2 years and come back and say, oh, you implemented it terribly. So we try and hold hands with our customers all the way through that transformation journey. And I guess this slide around procure to pay is quite a interesting one when it comes to the latest technologies that exist and how they're really brought to life. So what we find in the P2P space is the problem statement is different to what it was 20 plus years ago when I started my career. When I started my career, the problem statement was there's not enough technology to automate everything that we want to automate. And today, actually, the statement is different because there's almost too much technology and it all overlaps with one another. And really, the challenge is working out what to leverage, how to leverage it, and specifically in what areas should it be used. So part of that is working out initially how much of your ERP capability and competence you want to use. So, I know a lot of our customers, for example, are on SAP, some are on Oracle, some are on Microsoft. But in that landscape, in reality, the P2P functionality is limited. Hence, you need more than what the ERP can offer. But you need to make that decision around how far you're willing to go in terms of leveraging your ERP. You then have these point solutions, these platforms, the likes of the Baswares, the OpenText Vims, and the Newgens, where that platform gives you some inherent capability in certain areas around going from purchase order all the way through to processing an invoice and paying an invoice. So it gives you almost an interface with your ERP where you can run your AP process and also the workflow around that. And so a lot of organizations have recognized that their ERPs don't do enough, hence they need a platform to sit on top. And then on the right-hand side, you have what we call kind of the intelligent automation space. And these can be additional add-ons where you want to develop certain capabilities that don't exist in either your ERP or on your AP platform. And those include things like RPA. And I'm not going to spend more than a minute talking about RPA because I imagine you're all pretty familiar with robotic process automation. There is definitely space for RPA in the P2P cycle. It's just that it's not going to automate 100% of your activity. There's probably some reporting, supplier master data, and other opportunities that you can certainly automate through RPA within your P2P process. The other ones that I will just pull out in terms of this automation landscape are process mining and task mining, simply because I think the insight that you can generate from leveraging process and task mining gives you a lot more powerful process information than what you ever had before. So if you're not leveraging process and task mining, it's something I think you should definitely look at, because the problem with P2P is that everyone thinks it's easy. And those of you that are listening today in our audience, I think that it's a lot more complicated than people initially think. And so when you have that technology to support the view of what your process really looks like, you can show them these wonderful spaghetti diagrams that demonstrate that whilst P2P might sound easy, you actually have 30 different ways of processing an invoice, 20 different ways of paying an invoice, and different treatments for suppliers in different countries, different VAT requirements, and completely different processes. So that really helps you send the message clearly around the complexity, but also to initiate a real standardization program. So I think for me, the 3 tools that you should be thinking about as your first thoughts when it comes to P2P is RPA, process and task mining, and then BPM and process workflow. So, a lot of immature P2P functions don't have any workflow. So what that means is that they have a plethora of emails going through the email box where you're chasing emails, you're chasing invoices, you're chasing POs, you're chasing approvals, you're chasing GRNs, and it's all over the place. And that level of inefficiency can quickly be eradicated with a process workflow capability that tools like Newgen also bring into the equation. So those are the must-haves from our perspective. And then you've got some, real nice-to-have additions which help you generate more efficiency in your end-to-end process. And the one I'll touch on two of these. Intelligent data extraction, because this is quite close to my heart. I think the days of OCR giving you like a 50% accuracy rate are over, because you now have tools and technology that have built-in artificial intelligence that can really understand an invoice and identify what is the invoice number, what is the invoice date, break out the line-by-line details and enter it into your ERP. So that technology has gone, has really grown in sophistication, so much so that for a recent tire manufacturer, Euromaster, we achieved 98% accuracy on their intelligent OCR or intelligent data extraction processes. So this was receiving email invoices, getting this technology to read it and then automate it fully into the ERP. And that just shows, they were achieving 40% through, I think, ReadSoft that they were using previously. And it just shows what the art of the possible is in today's environment. So intelligent data extraction is an important one to consider. And the last one I'll just touch on, because I imagine many of you have never heard of it, are these guiding tools, also known as digital adoption platforms. So these are tools like WalkMe and WhatFix and AppLearn. And what they do, well, actually, the inventor of one of these, a guy called Raphael, was trying to explain internet banking to his mother. So she rang up, he was on the phone, he was like, this is what you do, this is how you do it. And they jumped on a quick video call and he explained it, and she was able to make an internet payment. And he thought, what a wonderful son I am. 2 weeks later, she called up again and asked the same question. He thought, oh gosh, I have to explain it all over again. And he thought, wouldn't it be great if there was applications or, applications that sat on top of our systems. So what these technologies do is they act as a live operating procedure. They say, click here, do this, do that, which is really important for P2P, because a lot of our problems in finance are because people are selecting the wrong supplier, the wrong country, the wrong VAT treatment, the wrong cost center. And all of those errors actually can be fixed further upstream by using this technology almost as an online training aid for people that don't use the technology or the system that often. So those are some of the tools and technologies across the P2P landscape that it's useful to know about. And today we'll focus on, that point solution of Newgen, which has some of these inbuilt competencies within the platform. I think we can carry on. So the final slide, I think, around Proservartner, what makes us different as an organization? Well, I mentioned it earlier. We don't hire graduates, we only hire practitioners with a minimum of 7 years experience, an average of about 15 years experience. We specialize in what we do. We're independent, so we don't offer BPO, for example, as a service. That's not always the answer. We're value for money because we don't have the overheads of a Deloitte or a PwC, and we're mega responsive. So if you want to start a project on Monday, give us a call on a Wednesday and we'll be there. So that's just a little bit about what makes us different as an organization. And moving on, Shriram. I think then when it comes to what we talk about as our automation heat map, there are areas when we look at P2P that are highly automatable. There are areas that when we look at P2P that are sometimes automatable, and there's red areas that are pretty difficult. So those green areas, I think this is a great diagram in setting out the art of the possible. Those green areas, if you're not using automation today, you should really be thinking about that. So, at the procurement and purchase order end, you've got measuring performance. Any reporting in today's environment, especially standard reporting, should be automated. Whether you're using RPA, whether you're using process mining, whether you're using your AP platform or a BI tool, you really shouldn't be doing these manually. The creation and submission of requisitions and the conversion of requisitions to purchase orders, again, it should be automated in today's environment. Sending the purchase orders to your vendors, that falls under the easily automatable category. Processing receipts, managing invoice collection and entry, again, with intelligent data extraction, should be automated. Validating and handling the invoice data and then submitting the transactions for processing also fall into that easy category. And then actually running the payment run. So obviously you need to approve that yourselves, but actually transacting the payment run, if it's not automated today, is easily automated. And the generation of any KPI reporting around that and any reports you need for management are also automatable. I would add to that things like master data, supplier master data is another big one that's highly automatable from an automation heat map perspective. Shriram, was there anything you wanted to add on to that slide?
Yeah, so the important point that Rakesh mentioned is about it's not just about an accounts payable automation, but it's a journey where we start from where we want to be today, tomorrow, and in the years to come. So the vision of automation is very important to ensure that we know what we have, what we are expecting over a period of days or months or years, and we define our journey towards that and achieve the automation targets and hence the benefits of these automation. So what is presented here is all about the key processes that will help in touching the bottom line of the organization as well as the top line of the way we conduct our business. Yes.
Correct. Thank you, Shriram. And before we move on to the demo of the Newgen platform, we'll share with you also some of the trends that we see in AP. So let's move on to that. So, what do we see in this space at the moment? Well, we see organizations really embracing automation and digitization, and we've spoken about all that already, and you've seen the toolkit of automation. So I won't touch on that anymore. But we're also seeing a real movement to cloud. So I think historic on-premise systems are increasingly being moved over to the cloud. And I think cloud-based systems are certainly what all of the vendors are pushing. And we're seeing most customers follow that trend as well. So I think cloud is certainly the future, not just for AP. I think this probably applies to the whole application set within an enterprise. The integration with ERP has become really important. We're working with companies, for example, that have 10 ERPs. And an accounts payable platform can be really interesting in those scenarios because it acts as a bit of middleware. So you can put something on top of all 10 ERPs and have the teams just processing on that one system. And in the back end, that system then integrates with those 10 ERPs. So that's where it gets really interesting. And then the other trend, I think, is around touchless processing and straight through processing. I think with the insight through process and task mining you can get now in your end-to-end P2P, there's more and more focus on let's make this straight through processing, touchless processing, so that AP departments can automate all the way through invoice approval and the payment processing, reducing those human errors. The fifth one I think we've talked about already, which is workflow automation. If you don't have a workflow tool for AP, you must be crazy. There's a clear business case for it. From an audit and control perspective, if you don't have a workflow tool, it means that you've probably got hundreds of emails around the business, which represents a lot of risk, I think, because it's unmanaged and slightly out of control. And that also creates noise within the organization, because you have suppliers chasing, you'll have buyers then being chased by suppliers internally, then chasing the AP department. So yeah, I think that's the key one, but we've already talked about that. I think moving on, the sixth one, if we move to the next slide. So then we've got data. The numbering is a bit odd here, but we've got the data analytics and reporting. We talked about some of the BI capability, but I think increasingly what we're seeing in accounts payable functions is that the efficiency at some stage is the law of diminishing returns. And actually, rather than chasing efficiency, account payable departments should be chasing the insight piece and the ability to be able to manage working capital, to take advantage of supplier discounting, supply chain financing, and also to be providing procurement insights by being better in control of your end-to-end cycle. We're also seeing increased use of self-service portals where suppliers can almost go onto a buyer system and invoice directly on that vendor portal, and then have a PO flip in place so that that turns into the invoice and it gets paid accordingly. Regulatory compliance and security, I think with the growth of GDPR and increasing regulation, I think is high on the agenda. I think the fraud aspect is more relevant than ever before. More and more, with the use of automation and AI, the fraud attempts are getting more and more sophisticated. I know our company, every week there's someone pretending to be the chief executive, Rakesh Sangani, and asking for an immediate payment. So you have to be really careful around compliance and security. And I think your workforce is also asking for mobile accessibility, apps on phones, for example, to make it really easy to be able to approve invoices, to be able to approve GRNs or what have you. And then finally, AP payment options are changing. I think suppliers are much more open to different mechanisms of payments, not just ACH payments, not just BACS payments, not just direct debit payments, but also things like virtual cards and digital wallets. And things like that are being used more and more to help digitize the payment process. So those are kind of our top trends that we see. My final comment around Proservartner is we do lots of interesting stuff in this space. I mentioned we've achieved 98% invoice data extraction accuracy. We've helped organizations really automate invoices. We've helped identify early payment discounts. We've helped in saving duplicate payments, ultimately saving costs of your AP function, and improving error rates. So, hey, we're a great company. Come talk to us. So I think that's what really I wanted to say from a Proservartner perspective. Before handing over to really have a look at this AP platform that I was banging on about with respect to Newgen, who I think where they sit in the marketplace from my perspective is that they're better than you probably think, and they're really price competitive. And with that in mind, I'll hand over to you, Shriram.
Thank you, Rakesh, and hope the whole session was informative as of now. Let me continue on what Rakesh was talking about. So first, the question is about why Proservartner and Newgen. Proservartner, Rakesh was talking about the practices of Proservartner. specialize in consulting, bringing value to the entire operation or automation. And where we come from is a technology backbone which supports the outcomes that are expected, promised, and to be delivered by these consulting organizations like Proservartner. So where we come from is alignment to the industry better practices, as we call it, to ensure that every aspect of delivery is focused towards an outcome. These outcomes are nothing but the vision that you have as part of your automation, which are translated into strategies. And these strategies, again, are categorized into KPIs or KRAs. And what we try to do with these automation is enable visualization of where we are, where we want to be, and what is supposed to be done to achieve those KPIs and even better them. So that's the focus of our winning proposition. So we say that right from assist versus to be a leader in the space of digital transformation, how you can move in steps or stages. We are the perfect partners for you to ensure both from a practice perspective as well as from a technology perspective, we can take you to that level of automation and realization of benefits. Now, having said that, what do I mean over here is that, as Rakesh said, in 20 years, a lot of things has changed. Lot of things has changed because the experience expectation by different roles, by different users, by different stakeholders have changed, which indirectly means that the expectation from business, from automation, from technology, everything has changed. But what has not changed is the fundamentals of finance or transaction management. While the experience has changed, the way we record the data continues to be maybe a Stone Age kind of a model, but still that is sacrosanct and we cannot disturb that. And as part of every compliance, as Rakesh was talking about, we have to adhere to our standard operating procedures, right? So with that, what we have done is that Newgen is a 32-year-old organization. We have been implementing the entire finance and accounting framework, including P2P and invoice processing for all these years to many of our marquee clients. I'll talk about that at the end of the slide. With our experience and with the changing needs of the users, the different stakeholders, internal and external, and the technology advancements, we have created a jumpstart template, or we call it as accelerator, or a quick to go kind of a process, which encompasses the most frequently required automation as part of any invoice process. So you don't need to invent any new thing. It is not that you have not visualized and you did not get it. So rather than asking you what is required and trying to do those process automation, we come with industry better practices, right? So let me explain each one of them. Where we start from is an omni-channel initiation. We all know that invoices today come in different nature. It could be physical documents, it could be through these eFax models, or it could be through your emails as attachments, or it could be through a portal. It could be anything of that sort. So what we are saying is that whatever may be your source of acquiring a document or an invoice, we have a framework for that, ready-made. So we have to just configure a set of emails. Any email can be sent. It can be sent with one attachment, multiple attachments. The moment this email is received, the email is automatically passed and pushed into the workflow. It could be scanning. So we have a mailroom setup. So if you have a mailroom, we can deploy the software piece, which can help in bulk scanning and introduction of the transactions. In some cases where we have found that there are some utility payments and lease agreements, which you don't expect any invoices, but as per the contractual obligation, we are supposed to pay on a particular date and time the amount which is prescribed as per the contract. So we do have a framework where you can define your recurring transactions between the dates. You can specify your contract obligations, and the system will automatically generate an invoice and push it, which you might be doing today in a manual Excel. And sometimes you forget maybe it is not a penalty, but it really creates friction with the vendors. We also have a lightweight vendor portal where the vendors can interact, get the feedback about the status of their invoice, submit the digital copy of the invoice, raise clarifications. If there are discrepancies noted as part of invoice processing, that can be responded back by the vendors. They can submit their statutory documents as part of the regulatory needs, or they can also go for PO flip as Rakesh was talking about. Right, so we have the entire, you name the channel, we have the channel available with us. So that's the framework. We say that it's a ready to go. You can plug in, you can just switch on and off whichever mode of initiation you want. The other thing that Rakesh spoke about is the intelligence and automation tools. If you remember, there was a promise of 98% of OCR. How does that happen? It does not happen with every time, right? So that question mark will always be there with us, saying, is it really possible? Now, there are two facts to that. One is achieving a 98% extraction accuracy. Second, Rakesh spoke about straight through processing. So the moment we achieve a 98% accuracy and a straight through processing, what is really required is what he spoke in the other slide is about touchless processing, or I will put it saying process by exception or discrepancy, right? So I get an invoice in email, it gets extracted, it gets validated, it gets posted into my ERP. If there is a discrepancy in posting, it will come to my notice. Hey, it will tell me, hey, I found a problem in this invoice. I look at that, I resolve it. Again, it goes into silent posting, or we call it as touchless posting. So this framework is capable of doing touchless posting, whether it is for 100% of your invoices or 10% or 15%. It's all based on the parameterization we want to do against our return on investment. But the idea is that, yes, there is a proven application which is capable of handling those aspects. Now, even if you look at the extraction, what we do is that every software that you would have seen so far has a pre-built engine which does the OCR and applies intelligence on that to bring about the invoice information. What we have is we have a multi-engine concept, because that if one engine was so successful in the world, all other engines would have shut down shop by now. So there is a problem in some engine, there is an advantage in some other engine. So the engines vary, and based on the complexity of the data, the accuracy varies. So what we have brought in is a multi-engine extraction, doing a voting between them at a field level to see which is giving the highest level of confidence, take that and push it into the system. Now, sorry, I'm really sorry for that. Right. So what we do here is that the moment I extract and I show it as part of the validation, I show saying that, okay, so this is a field PO number which got automatically extracted. The moment I click on that, it shows up a color code, green color, to say that the accuracy was above 90%. While it shows that, it also shows from which part of the image it extracted the data. It's a template-less extraction. You don't need to define any template for any invoice. And then it also zooms out and tells you from where it got extracted, as well as the portion of the image from where it extracted. Also, it tells you the other engine values which got extracted. So there is an AI capability that if the highest confidence is not the exact value always, and we choose a different engine with a lower confidence, and that is for this vendor, for this field, that other engine has been the right way, then automatically AI learns that, and from next time onwards, it uses that engine instead of the highest accuracy engine. We also talk about the image assisted data entry, and we also have a rubber banding concept where dynamically I can draw a zone and extract and add I can make the engine learn, saying that, okay, henceforth, PO number should be considered as a PO number field and the value should be extracted. So dynamically adding or making the engine learn on the fly is also an added advantage over there. We also have the transliteration capability. So we can extract from multiple languages, auto convert and display it as part of the screen, so that it's a one-shot compilation of the entire invoice data. right? So I can also go into the validations. I can talk about the moment I say currency code, based on the currency code, the taxation and other fields can be displayed. So it's a single form which shrinks or expands based on the rules of the region or the country. We also show you the STP rates, as Rakesh was talking about, what STP rates we are achieving for which customers, sorry, which vendors, so that we can pull this as part of the logic for touchless processing. For the enabled automation, which Rakesh again spoke about, is that we also have a suggestive coding in order to stop wrong coding to process the invoice as part of non-PO invoices and doing a month-end or quarter-end reconciliation, rectifying the wrong codes and passing an adjustment journal voucher to take care of that. So here we try to show which are the frequently used cost codes and account codes for a particular vendor and for the service delivered, so that the number of reconciliation items is brought down drastically. We also show the last 5 transactions, and we also show deduping. We also show a lot of validations to ensure that it's a one-stop shop for the entire validation. What is more important, if you remember Rakesh spoke about, is that due to mergers and acquisitions, multiple business units, we have multiple instances of the same ERP or multiple technologies of ERP like SAP, Oracle, Dynamics, and much more than that. The moment we try to standardize a process on top of a particular ERP, it is good. But the moment we span across ERPs, the capability of the BPM or the workflow tool to adapt to the technology variations is limited. And that's where we score here. We call it as process orchestration. And this process orchestration allows you to create a layer workflow on top of your ERPs and ensure that you get the best of the worlds from a technology, from an orchestration, from a reporting, from visibility and compliance perspectives, right? Even if you talk about approvals, again, what Rakesh spoke about is how do you enable, mobile is one of the important aspects of automation these days. So I can define my approval matrix, I can approve on the interface itself, or for people who are on the travel always, I can also have an offline approval mechanism. I just send an HTML mail, I have 2 links to approve or reject with all the content relating to that invoice. So what I need to do is, and when I'm approver, is even on the flight before takeoff, I just read the invoice content, I read the way it has been processed so far, and I approve or reject, which gets translated back into the workflow, applied and pushed back for further things. So what we found as a key metrics for delayed processing is people are traveling and approval cycles are long. So this functionality has helped us in bringing value to our clients. And we also have the mobile app-based approval. So we have native app to ensure that there is no reason by anybody to say, I could not work on this transaction because I was not in front of my laptop or my movie, right? So that's the framework we are trying to bring, a cohesive framework to ensure things are taken care of. And we also take back the information from ERP to have a comprehensive view. And what we also do is that, if you remember, we spoke about things have changed in the last 20 years. What has changed is people who looked at automation as a minimum requirement have started looking at what do I get out of this automation? How it is going to be beneficial? What are my ROI? What is going to be my investment and returns? And what is going to be my future benefit of that, right? People are, the entire framework has moved from prescriptive processing to predictive processing, which is the touchless we spoke about. It has moved from a reactive processing to proactive processing, in the sense of what I showed as approval. So it does not stop based on the turnaround times expected for each and every activity. It starts prompting to ensure that things happen on time. And we have also increased the visualization layer based on the roles. If you're a user, it tells me, where am I? What am I doing? What am I supposed to do? The entire rule book of visualization has been drafted over here. So if I'm a team lead, I get to drill down into these reports and see what they are. I get the IT reports, I get the tower lead or the functional head reports as well. And we also, if you see here, we have the trend analysis, which is what I spoke about, saying that the industry best practices, the current where we are, where we want to be, what is the trend that is there in our organization now, the bottlenecks which are not allowing me to reach the industry better practices, all these things can be visualized as part of these dashboards. And obviously we do have the CXO based reports where the drill down from a multi-organization corporate layer to individual entities can be performed as part of it. It's an interesting area. We have a lot of KPI dashboards pre-configured so that you don't need to look back and try to see what is that I require. In fact, we also have gamification for the rule-based gamification where I can bring in my stakeholders, whether it is vendors who are my external stakeholders, make them lucrative to bring them into the ways where they can help us in straight through. We can ensure that, okay, your STP rates are down. If you ensure that you give good quality of invoice, your STP rates will go up. If it goes up, I'll give you some brownie points. I can give you a rating, better rating as part of the vendor profiling, right? So I can give them some goodies and ensure that they give me good quality invoices so that my processing time reduces and hence the cost per invoice. So in order to make them understand where they are failing, we have all these rule-based dashboards which they can see and correct themselves as well as benefit us as part of the overall cycle. Similarly, internal employees, how they work, with that portion also, we can give badges, we can give scores for their better performance and ensure that there is a cohesive working environment, whether it is with internal stakeholders or with external stakeholders, right? So gamification has been a new trend as part of the work environment as well, where these are used for appraisals as well as for rewarding good employees for their better performance. Along with that, what we also have is plenty of features like audit log, a completely detailed audit log, a timestamp at what activity, who did what, when, what was the activity done. If there was a field change from 100 to 1000, it will tell you that the earlier value was 100, now it is changed as 1000. A very comprehensive detailed audit log is there. We also can do deviations. Suppose I am a user, I'm not available, I can do my deviation. I can say I am on leave, whatever comes to me between these 2 dates, pass it on to Rakesh for processing. All these are available as part of audit as well. I can also do a reassignment. I can say, oh, this skill particularly is not with me. I want to push it to Rakesh because it's a capex invoice of 1 million and above. Similarly, I can also manage the exceptions escalations, and I can also notify for those exceptions or escalations or discrepancy to the buyer team or to the vendor directly as part of a mail or through the vendor portal as well. We can also take care of the skill management and take care of the entire framework, right? So the framework that I spoke about, it's a comprehensive framework. Please allow us some time. We will be able to give you the entire framework, how it works. We are in fact going to be part of the Gartner's APIA, Accounts Payable Invoice Automation Market Guide as well. So you can see that we have a comprehensive framework to take care of things. Not only that, we can expand, as I told about the platform that we spoke about. It's not a point solution, but we do have plenty of extensions that we can automate along with this as part of the same platform, be it procure to pay or records to report or order to cash or various other things that Rakesh spoke about. And in fact, the entire P2P framework has dual framework, one, the portal framework for the external people and the internal workflow management for the stakeholders who are based within the organization. And all these things are built as part of the low-code platform. The low-code platform consisting of the content management, the low-code automation, the customer communication management, and the AI/ML piece. And with this, we extend beyond the core and non-core processes of any organization that you may be in.
Sure, and maybe we want to hear from the clients, yeah, and then open up questions.
Sure.
So yeah, but maybe just talk through some of the client case studies, and then let's open up for a few questions by Gunjan.
Sure. Yeah, so we are recognized by the analyst. I have only a couple of slides. So, and we are not a small company. We are a 32-year-old organization. We have 44 patents, technology patents, and we are spread across countries, 70+ countries with subsidiaries across the world. So that's that brings me to the end of this presentation. Happy to have queries so that we can answer jointly.
Excellent. So yeah, what I really like is that Newgen is working also with the likes of Mercedes, AstraZeneca, Daimler. So not just small companies, but some really big brand names. But Gunjan, should we open up for questions? Did we have any questions from the audience? Well, I think we may have lost you, Gunjan. So, but I see there's a few questions on our list here. The first is around change management approaches. And just to answer that one quickly, so yes, change management I think is critical as you're going through these types of transformations. I think it's an area that's underestimated in AP transformations. You can have the best technology, you can have the best processes, but if your people decide not to use them, that becomes a material problem. So I think you cannot underestimate the importance of strong communication and a really effective change management program, so that the adoption of the tools and technologies, the adoption of the new processes and new ways of working are really working within the organization. You're really winning the hearts and minds of the people. So yeah, I think if you do go through these types of technology transformations, you should invest in that change management as well. So that was the first question. I see a second question around how Newgen compares to the competition and how you should select the right AP platform. I'm assuming, Shriram, you have some views around that one.
Sure, thanks, Rakesh. So my view on that will be, please look at your long-term objectives, the vision from an automation perspective, and then look at a short-term on invoice automation, and then look at your SOPs, which is the compliance objectives of automation. If you work backwards on these lines, look at a solution that can satisfy your SOP automation end to end. As long as you are able to visualize your SOP as part of the automation, along with that, bring in all the change management that you look for from an automation perspective, from a user experience perspective, as well as from a visualization of your KPIs and few other matrices. As long as you can have a continuous process improvement with the technology and the partner, right? As long as the partner and the technology are able to help you in a continuous improvement cycle and help you achieve the first objectives and beyond, I think that should be the platform to go for.
Yeah, interestingly enough, I think we do this a lot for businesses where we help them select the right platform. We typically find that you look at the criteria that's important to you as a business. So it may be cost, it may be functionality, it may be integration with your ERP, it may be the touchless processing piece, it may be the built-in capability around automating invoice processing or identifying duplicates. So I think for me, first of all, you need to really understand what your requirements are and document them and prioritize them. And once you've done that, there's plenty of options out there in the marketplace. It really does depend on your appetite around how far you want to go, how much complexity you're undertaking, how many languages you're looking to support to be able to make that right decision. That's kind of our experience in that area. Good.
I think we are out of time.
I think we are out of time, so I think we should close the session now. I just want to say a big thank you to our partners, Newgen. A big thank you to all of you for listening, and I hope you found that really useful and meaningful. We'll be in touch. So thanks very much for your time and lovely to see you all.
Thank you, and a very good day to all of you. Have a great day ahead. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.